The visitor advantage. Why every hospital you walk into except yours is already your next six-figure contract. The average nurse walks into 3 other hospitals a year, not the one that signs her paycheck, other hospitals. When her mother gets admitted, when her best friend has surgery, when she takes her grandbaby to the ER, when she flies to a conference hosted at a medical center, when she tours the facility she's thinking about working for. 3 other hospitals a year minimum. And every single time she walks in, she sees the same thing. She sees the gaps. The broken discharge board, the confused front desk, the documentation chaos, the nurse crying in the med room. She sees it in under 90 seconds because you cannot unsee 30 years of clinical pattern recognition. And then she does the one thing that cost her 6 figures a year every single time. She walks back out. She gets in her car. She tells her spouse on the drive home, baby, that place was a mess. And she goes on with her life. Meanwhile, that hospital that she walked through is cutting a check this quarter, a real check, to an outside consultant who would diagnose the exact gap she spotted in under 90 seconds and charge them $50,000 to $200,000 to fix it. You walk past your next contract. You didn't just walk past it. You complained about it in the passenger seat. Now, here's the question that I want you to sit with today. What if the reason you've been stuck isn't that you can't see the gaps, and it isn't that you don't know how to fix them, it's that you've been trying to sell in the one building where you cannot legally, politically, or practically be a vendor? What if every other hospital you walked into for any reason was a warm proposal opportunity already sitting there waiting for you? Because here's the truth nobody has ever told you. You cannot sell to your own hospital, but you can sell to every other one that you walk through. And today I'm going to hand you the entire playbook. Welcome back to the Millionaire Nurse CEO podcast. I'm Dr. V, and we help nurse leaders and experts work from anywhere around the world, unleashing income, building profitable nurse coaching, consulting, and service-based businesses. And if you like what you hear, hit the subscribe button and leave us a comment. We would love to hear from you. Now listen, if you've been trying to turn your insight into income and you keep hitting a wall at your own employer, this episode is going to unstick you. Because the wall isn't your insight, the wall is the building. And by the end of this next 27 minutes, you're going to see every other building you walk into for the rest of your life in a completely different manner. Let's go. Let's start by naming the thing that has kept you stuck. I call it the home court trap. The home court trap is this. The hospital you currently work at, the one that signs your paycheck, the one where your badge works, the one where you know everyone's name, the hospital, that's the single worst place on earth for you to try to send a proposal. And I know that sounds backwards because logistically, you would think, I know this place inside out. I know exactly what's broken. I know the people. I know the politics. I'm the perfect person to fix it. And clinically, you are absolutely right. But commercially, you cannot be more than wrong. Here's why the home court trap is so dangerous. At your own hospital, 3 things work against you at the same time. And most nurses never realize all 3 are operating at once. The first thing is called the badge paradox. Your badge at your own hospital doesn't just identify you, it limits you. The badge says night nurse floor 3. The badge says charge nurse med surg. The badge says DNP case management. And once that badge is on your chest, the C-suite sees the badge before they ever see the brain. They have already categorized you. They have already slotted you. You are not a consultant in their eyes. You are labor. And here's the painful truth. It is very hard, not impossible, but very hard to get a decision maker to pay consultant prices for someone they already see as labor. The second thing is politics. At your own hospital, there is a boss. There is a boss's boss. There's an HR department. There is a director who did not ask for your proposal and who may see it as a threat to her authority or her performance review. There are rules about moonlighting, conflict of interest, scope, and an intellectual property developed on company time. I'm not saying any of that is fair. I'm saying all of it is real. When you send a proposal inside the building you clock into, you are not walking into a commercial conversation. You are walking into a political one. And political conversations kill proposals faster than any price ever will. The third thing is proximity blindness. This one is subtle but deadly. You've been at your hospital so long that you stopped seeing what's broken with outside eyes. You naturalized the dysfunction. You know why the discharge process is a mess. It's a mess because of that director or that policy or that EMR provider or that budget freeze from 2021. You have so much context that you can't even pitch cleanly anymore. Decision makers don't buy context. Decision makers buy clarity. And proximity kills clarity every single time. Put all three together, the badge paradox, the politics, and proximity blindness, and you get the home court trap. You cannot sell to the hospital that signs your paycheck, and the moment you accept that, something amazing happens. An entirely different world opens up, because everything that makes you the wrong vendor at your own hospital makes you the right vendor at every other one. Okay, that's the trap. But here's where it gets interesting. Because once you understand why your own hospital is commercially closed to you, every other hospital in America suddenly opens up. And for a very specific reason. Let me walk you through exactly what changes the moment you step into a building that doesn't issue you your paycheck. The moment you walk through the doors of a hospital that is not your employer, something changes. Most nurses never notice it because they're mentally in visitor mode, worried about their auntie, focused on their kid, thinking about the conference they're about to attend. But commercially, everything has just flipped in your favor. And I call this shift the visitor advantage. And the visitor advantage has 4 pieces, 4 things that are automatically true about you the second you step through a door that you don't clock into. Piece 1, you have no badge. No badge means no category. The C-suite of this hospital has not slotted you as night nurse floor 3. They don't know who you are. And listen to me, that is an asset, not a liability, because the absence of a category lets you walk in as whatever you credibly present yourself to be. A DNP with 30 plus years of executive healthcare leadership experience. A patient experience specialist. A workflow consultant. A clinical capital expert. The badge paradox is gone. You are not labor in this building. You are a credential stranger, and credential strangers get consultant rates. Piece 2, you have no politics. Nobody in this hospital has opinions about you. Nobody is protecting turf from you. Nobody is worried that you're going to take that Q4 bonus. Nobody is still irritated about the thing that you said in the staff meeting in 2019. You are a blank slate to them, which means that a decision maker can evaluate your proposal on its actual merits, not on 6 years of political residue. This is a gift. Treasure it. Because every hospital that doesn't know you yet is a hospital that has not rejected you yet. Piece 3, you have fresh eyes. This is the piece that most nurses underestimate, and it's the most valuable one. You walked into this unfamiliar hospital, and within 90 seconds, you clocked the broken discharge board. That was not a lucky guess. That was 30 years of clinical pattern recognition, unfiltered by proximity blindness. You saw that place the way a patient sees it, the way a surveyor from CMS sees it, the way an outside auditor sees it. And that perspective of someone who can walk in cold and name the problem in under 90 seconds is worth a lot of money. Hospitals pay outside firms 6 figures for exactly that perspective. You did it free while you were visiting your aunt on Tuesday. Piece 4, you have direct access. Now this one is going to surprise you. You may not realize it yet, but when you're a visitor, you are often physically closer to the people who sign the checks than you ever were at your own job. At your hospital, the CEO is behind 4 layers of administration, and good luck getting past any of them. At the hospital you're visiting, the CEO is just a human being whose contact information is literally on the hospital's public website. You can look her up. You can email her directly. You can even write her a letter that says, I was a guest at your facility on this date, and I wanted to share 3 observations I believe are worth your time. Nobody is stopping you. There is no gatekeeper intercepting your message. You are an outside professional extending a professional courtesy. And that is the door that will open for you far more often than you think. Put those 4 together, no badge, no politics, fresh eyes, direct access, and you have the visitor advantage. Every other hospital in America is commercially open to you in a way that your own hospital will never be. You just have to learn to see every visit as what it actually is, a proposal opportunity dressed up as a personal errand. Okay, so now you have the advantage. But you're probably sitting there thinking, Dr. V, I barely visited in hospitals. And that's exactly the misconception I want to clear up right now. Because most nurses are walking into hospitals they don't work at far more often than they realize. And each type of visit is a completely different kind of proposal opportunity. Let me walk you through the 5 seats you're already sitting in. I call this framework the 5 visitor seats. There are 5 chairs you are already sitting in. Most nurses just never realized each chair was a sales seat. Seat 1, the family seat. Every nurse in America has a mother, has an auntie, has a grandbaby, has a friend from church, and those people get admitted. When you walk into a hospital to advocate for your family member, you are automatically inside a decision maker's building for multiple hours, sometimes multiple days, with full access to observe every workflow in the place. You are watching the discharge process. You are watching the night shift handoff. You are watching how they handle family members' questions. You are watching documentation chaos unfold in real time. By the time your loved one is discharged, you have a 90-day consulting engagement's worth of intel in your head. What most nurses do is complain about the experience to their spouse for a week. What a proposal posture nurse does is takes notes in her phone while she's sitting there. She goes home and she writes the CEO a letter. Seat 2, the conference seat. You go to a conference. The conference is hosted at a hospital or a medical center, or the conference is about a hospital system. You meet people. You hear directors complain about their staff shortage during the coffee breaks. You hear a VP of nursing mention a retention problem over lunch. You hear somebody talk about a compliance scare during a networking mixer. Every one of those conversations is a proposal lead. Most nurses collect business cards and never follow up. A proposal posture nurse writes a 1-paragraph email the very next morning that says, I heard you mention this challenge yesterday. I've been thinking about it. Do you have 15 minutes next week? I'd love to share an observation. Seat 3, the travel seat. If you do any agency work, travel nursing, per diem, or contract work outside your primary employer, you already have the visitor advantage on steroids. You are literally being paid to rotate through other hospitals with fresh eyes. You are clinically inside the building, but commercially, you are still outside of it. You are the perfect consultant in disguise. The 13-week travel assignment is not just a paycheck. It's a 13-week reconnaissance mission, if you let it be. Take notes from week 1. Note the gaps. At week 11, write the proposal. Submit it at week 13 on your way out of the door. You were never going to stay there long-term anyway. Now you leave with both a check and a contract lead in your pocket. Seat 4, the speaking seat. This one applies especially if you're already doing any speaking, teaching, or CEU work at any other facility. Every time you're invited to speak at a hospital, a medical center, or a systems event, you are being handed a backstage pass to the decision-making level of that organization. The people who hired you to speak are already predisposed to see you as an expert. That is literally half the proposal battle already won before you walked in the door. Do not leave that stage without leaving behind the specific next steps. A proposal outline, a follow-up meeting, a letter to the CEO waiting in her inbox the next morning. Speaking without follow-up is free labor. Speaking with follow-up is how 6-figure consulting contracts get born. Seat 5, the tour seat. Every job interview that you go on, every facilities tour you take, every networking event that happens on a hospital campus, that is a visitor seat. You are being given a guided walkthrough of a building by someone who works there, who will answer your questions, who will show you their workflows with their own mouth. Most nurses use that time to evaluate if they want to work there. A proposal posture nurse uses that time to evaluate whether the hospital has a gap she could close as a vendor. And then after the tour, instead of sending a thank you note for the interview, she sends a short follow-up that says, I appreciated the tour. I noticed something that I would love to share with your leadership. May I send a brief observation to the CFO? 5 seats. Family. Conference, travel, speaking, tour. You are already sitting in these seats every single year. You are already walking into these buildings with fresh eyes. The only thing that has ever been missing is the posture shift that turns the visit into a proposal. Okay, so now you know the trap, you know the advantage, and you know the C's. But you're probably thinking, Dr. V, what do I actually do when I get back home? What goes in this proposal? How do I frame it so I don't look like I'm ambulance chasing the hospital that just discharged my mama? And that's a fair question because the framing matters a lot. So let me walk you through exactly what the proposal looks like. I call this format the 3-page visitor proposal because it's only 3 pages and the visitor's angle changes the language on every single one. Page 1 is the observation page, not the complaint page, not the problem page, the observation page. The distinction is critical because when you're a visitor, you are not positioning yourself as an angry family member or a disgruntled tourist. You're positioning yourself as a credentialed outside professional who made a clinical observation during a legitimate visit. The language matters. You do not say your discharge process is terrible. You say, during a visit on March 3rd, I observed a pattern in your discharge workflow that I believe is costing your organization measurable dollars and avoidable readmission. Same content, completely different posture. One makes you sound like a Yelp reviewer, the other one makes you sound like a consultant. Then on the same page, you quantify. Same 3 buckets I always teach: money lost, time wasted, risk exposed. You translate the observation into language of a check signer. Based on typical industry benchmarks, I estimate this pattern may be costing your facility between X and Y annually. I would be glad to share a more detailed diagnostic if it would be useful for you and your team. Page 2 is the plan page. Same framework as always. 3 to 6 steps: audit, redesign, train, measure, hand back. Keep it simple. Keep it clear. Decision makers pay for clarity, not complexity. And because you're a visitor and not an employee, your plan page can include a detail that an employee's plan cannot. You can offer to do the work remotely, on-site, hybrid, or in a pilot format. That flexibility is itself a selling point because it lowers the perceived risk of saying yes to someone they've never worked with before. Page 3 is the price page. Clean number, no apology, no discount before you read it. And here is where the visitor advantage really pays off because the decision maker does not know your bedside hourly rate. They have no anchor for your clinical pay, which means they will price you based on the value of the outcome and the authority of the observation, not on what your manager pays you. I have watched nurses price their first visitor proposal at $4,000, $6,000, $12,000, even a 6-figure contract for work that would have felt crazy expensive inside their own hospital, and get a yes, because the outside professional frame resets the price anchor completely. And I want to give you one more piece because this one separates a visitor proposal from a cold consultant pitch. I call it the courtesy frame. When a visitor sends a proposal, the opening line is not, "I'd like to sell you my consulting services." The opening line is, "I was a guest at your facility recently, and I wanted to extend a professional courtesy." That framing is powerful for 2 reasons. 1, it signals you're not desperate, you're sharing. 2, it positions the proposal as a favor, not as a sales pitch, which makes the decision maker far more likely to actually read it. Most executives receive dozens of cold pitches a week. Almost none of them receive a professional courtesy level from a credentialed outside observer. You stand out in the inbox, you stand out in their mind, and then your 3 pages does the rest of the work. Before I wrap, I want to say something about fear because I know it's coming up for someone right now. You're listening to this and part of you is thinking, but Dr. V, what if they think I'm being disrespectful? What if they think I'm criticizing their hospital? What if I offend someone? Here's the truth. The hospital that would be offended by a credentialed professional offering a free observation backed by 3 clean, respectful pages of data is a hospital that was never going to hire you anyway. You're not losing anything by sending it. You're only losing by staying silent. Because every time you walk out of a building without sending this note, you're paying the complaint tax in a building that didn't even get a chance to see your real value. And for those of you who are believers, hear me on this one. The gifts you have been given are not restricted to the four walls of your own hospital. That instinct that you have to spot was broken in under 90 seconds, that's not a glitch in your soul. That is stewardship. And stewardship does not stop when you clock out of your employer. Stewardship follows you into every building you enter. Every visit is a chance to be useful. Every observation is a chance to serve. And sometimes more often than you've been taught to expect. The serving comes with a check attached because a worker is worthy of her wages, not just at her own job, anywhere her work creates value. All right, here's your homework, because I never want you to walk away from an episode without something that you can actually do this week. I want you to make a list, a simple list. The last 3 hospitals, other than your employer, that you walked into for any reason. Your aunt's surgery, a conference last fall, a tour you took for a job that you didn't end up accepting, your kid's ER visit. Write down 3 hospitals, and next to each one, write down the one gap that you noticed while you were there. Just one each. You already remember it. It's already sitting in your head. Write it down. That list is your first pipeline. 3 proposal opportunities, already warm, already observed, already living rent-free in your head for weeks or months or years. All that has ever been missing is 3 pages. And if you want me to walk you through exactly how to write those pages, how to price the proposal, how to find decision makers' email addresses, and how to send courtesy letters that opens the door without making you feel salesy or pushy, I want you to join us for our next live training. Comment the word visitor under the episode and we'll drop the link for you so that you can join us for our next live training. Now listen to me. You cannot sell to the hospital that signs your paycheck, but you can sell to every other hospital you walk through. And every single year, you are already walking through more of them than you realize. The next hospital you visit is already a pipeline. The only question is whether you will leave the building with a complaint or with a proposal. Stop leaving with a complaint, start leaving with a proposal. I'll see you on the next